Similarly to how food was a battleground for my mom, sleep was also a battleground. There was a whole bunch of stuff around sleep that was just really weird. My mom was like the lightest sleeper in the entire world, and so we had to be literally like creeping around the house, quiet as mice. And she would sleep in till 10, but we would be supposed to get up at like 7 to do our schoolwork, our homeschool, which she was teaching us. So we had to be super, super quiet in the morning to make sure that we didn't wake her up. But if she ever had to wake us up, she did it so loudly and rudely and meanly. Like, it was just the rudest awakening. Like, she would have us go wake up my dad, and if we were too gentle and he fell back to sleep, she would make us wake him up harder. I don't know how to explain it really, but like, we had to be like shaking him and stuff. And I used to sleepwalk in high school, and she would argue with me while I was asleep. Like, I'd be asleep and I'd be like, it's 8 a.m. And she'd be like, no, it's 3 a.m. And I'm like, no, I just looked at the clock, it's 8 a.m. And I would be asleep, but she would still argue with me. Even my dad was like, they're asleep, stop arguing with them. My dad would fall asleep at night watching the movies that we always watched as a family, and she would always just like kind of like hit him and be like, oh, wake up. Like, she was so annoyed with him for falling asleep. When he got up earlier than the rest of us to go to work, and then he was at work all day, and then he had to come home and deal with my mom, and then had to watch a movie with the whole family. She could not tolerate him falling asleep when he needed more sleep, and was always completely exhausted because he hated his job. Also at night, she kept it very, very cold in the house in the winter. I mean, 62 degrees. And my room was in the back corner of the house where the wind would whip around and where it was farthest from the furnace. So my room would be colder than the rest of the rooms. We would do all kinds of things to like save money on heat, which I think is kind of penny pinchery. You know, it's like you need to be an okay temperature to sleep. You know, you can't be freezing your ass off and be expected to get a good night's sleep. And waking up in the mornings was just hell because it felt like outside, inside. We would use hot water bottles under the blankets. We would put our blankets in the dryer so that they would be warm for a minute when we first went to sleep. But we would not just raise the frickin' temperature. And bedtime was very strictly enforced. Like, we were not allowed to stay up a minute past bedtime. And if we were ever caught staying up past bedtime, we were in huge, huge trouble. They would not want us to come out of our room for like any needs that we had, like needing ibuprofen, which we weren't allowed to get ourselves. We had to ask for it. She also always made my dad snoring an issue, as if he could control it. She would complain about how his snoring kept her up all night, and what was he supposed to do about that? Magically stop snoring in his sleep? Like, she would just never let go of that. Yeah, I guess it sucks being a light sleeper, and she was always in a state of hypervigilance. But the way that we were treated so differently in terms of sleep, like, her sleep was sacred and protected at all costs, whereas ours was just like she could just wake me up whenever she wanted, however she wanted. She could also never sleep when we were away on vacation. So vacations were terrible because she got no sleep and she was miserable. Narcissists often use sleep as a battleground. They try to sleep deprive you so that you're easier to control. Whether they're doing it consciously or unconsciously, that is the result of the behavior. And that is the result of sleep depriving somebody or rudely awakening somebody. I was never in my life woken up gently with love. If I slept in, she made it a big problem. Like, when I would visit home during college and I would sleep until the afternoon because I was like burnt out and depressed, she would just she would always make comments about it and just act like I shouldn't be sleeping as much as I was, and like I had a major problem for sleeping in. And did she ever get me treatment? No, she just complained about it. I swear, like, I would be so quiet in the morning. Like, I would be turning the doorknob a degree at a time and like tiptoeing and just the level of effort that was like, the TV would be at like a 10 in the volume department, like, whereas normally it would be 30 or 40. But we had to keep the volume on the TV down if it was a weekend and we were just watching TV or movies. But like, no matter what, she would always say that I woke her up because I'm loud. And I would literally be trying my hardest to be quiet because I didn't want to deal with her drama over sleep. Anyway, just a random little thing that narcissists do.